Hari Om. In the previous lecture, we have discussed 10 principal Upanishads which give the life education. In some of those Upanishads like Kathopanishad, Chandogya Upanishad or Shvetashvetara Upanishad, references of yoga practices can be seen. But there are a separate set of Yoga Upanishads which are part of these 108 Upanishads. These are called as Yoga Upanishads and they are 20. When they were composed, there is a debate going on and nobody knows exactly when they were composed. But these Upanishads are the main source of yoga. The names of these Upanishads like Tejobindu Upanishad, Amrutanada Upanishad, Yoga Tattva Upanishad. So the names of these Upanishads, they reveal the main subject of that Upanishad. In all these 20 Upanishads, they talk about the process of yoga and the various aspects of yoga, and they discuss in detail the Ashtanga Yoga as we find in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. These Upanishads, they are called as minor Upanishads in those 108 Upanishads. As we have seen, the 10 Upanishads which we have studied earlier, they are the main or the principal Upanishads, and these 20 Upanishads, they are called as minor Upanishads. Very rarely they are studied and taught. Even those who practice yoga, they very rarely know about these Upanishads. But these are very important from the point of view of those who learn or who study yoga. Because as I said earlier, these are the main source of yogic practices. And they bring out the essence of yoga. As I say by Shvetashvetara Upanishad, that through yoga, one can build healthy and clean body. And only then, the divine in oneself can get manifested. And therefore, practicing yoga according to the Yoga Upanishad becomes very relevant. And so, some of these Upanishads, 4 of them, which are very important of these 20 Upanishads, are being discussed in the following few minutes. Of course, again I say that it is very difficult to give the entire teaching of any Upanishad in such a short period of time. But still to get an overview and to know what are the main teachings of that particular Upanishad, we are focusing on that. So, today we will be concentrating on 4 Upanishads which are Yoga Upanishad out of these 20 Upanishads which are completely devoted to yoga. The first Upanishad, Yoga Upanishad, that we will be discussing is Yoga Tattva Upanishad. Yoga Tattvopanishad. This is attached to Yajurveda and has 142 mantras. This title, Yoga Tattvopanishad, means Yoga and Truth. It discusses the ideas of Yoga Sutra, Hatha Yoga and Kundalini Yoga. It describes 4 styles of yoga: Mantra Yoga, Laya Yoga, Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga, which are practiced today and which are discussed and studied. Mantra Yoga is the practice through chants. Mantra is chanting and Mantra Yoga is the practice through chants or chanting. Hatha Yoga is through deep concentration, particularly focuses on asanas. Laya Yoga is through deep concentration. And Hatha Yoga is through exertion. Raja Yoga is through meditation. So it gives in detail, this Upanishad gives in detail the process of these 4 styles of yoga. It says that it is the knowledge of ultimate reality and Supreme Self, the Brahma, which can lead to the path of liberation and realization. You will find that even in Yoga Upanishads, the main theme or main focus is on Brahma, Atma and liberation. And only thing is that here in these Upanishads, the knowledge of Brahma, Atma and liberation can be attained through yoga, and that is how it is discussed. It says that this is possible, this knowledge of ultimate reality and the path of liberation and self-realization is possible only through yoga. The reason being, the yoga student is free from anger, fear, greed, pride, lust, birth, death, hunger, thirst, grief and gladness. So the Upanishad gives virtues of the yoga student and yogic practices. Ashtanga Yoga practice helps one to gain these virtues, like free from anger, most important, free from greed and lust, free from pride, and neither is very happy when he is glad, nor in a misery when there is a grief. And so, a person who has attained it, a student who has attained it, this equilibrium of mind can gain the knowledge of ultimate reality and Supreme Self. And these virtues can be imbibed through yogic practices. And so it gives how and what is to be gained, what is to be attained by following yogic practices. This Upanishad, Yoga Tattvopanishad, gives in detail the description of yoga techniques and its benefits. Upanishad simultaneously give the importance of yoga and jnana, that is knowledge. So it is not only the yogic practices, but along with that, jnana, that is acquiring knowledge, is also important. And it is accepted and declared to be mutually complementary and necessary. So only following yogic practices will not help. Neither only acquiring of knowledge will not help. So both are important. Knowledge about Supreme Self, knowledge about Atma, this entire universe. That knowledge is also important. And along with that, yogic practices is also important. In fact, they are complementary to each other, which means that one who follows yogic practices is inclined to gain the knowledge, or one who gains the knowledge is inclined to follow yogic practices, though these two cannot be separated. It defines knowledge as through which one can cognize in himself the real nature of kaivalya, that is moksha, as the supreme seat. So bliss, the supreme reality, knowing the supreme reality, that is the knowledge. Knowing oneself is the knowledge. The knowledge is of Brahma and its unity with Atma. So this non-duality, Advaita, of Atma and Brahma is the knowledge that is to be learned, and that knowledge, along with yogic practices, can help one to attain liberation or self-realization, or kaivalya as it is called. It says that, the Upanishad says that yoga and knowledge both go together to realize Brahma and attain salvation. The text discusses meditation and thereafter 20 stages of Hatha Yoga. The Upanishad recommends Om chanting for a long hours or period, along with following other yogic processes. So, the Upanishad says Om chanting is the most beneficial, but it should be for a long period, long hours. So one has to decide how long it should be and go on increasing the timing for chanting of Om along with the yogic practices. The Upanishad asserts Raja Yoga to be means for yogi to detach himself from the world. We have seen that in those 10 Upanishads also, detachment of one from the worldly things is important. This Upanishad also emphasizes the detachment, non-attachment. And it says that by following Raja Yoga, that is meditation, it is possible for one to get detached from the worldly things. It mentions many asanas, but particularly it gives in detail 4 asanas First is Siddhasana, second is Padmasana, third is Sinhasana, and the fourth is Bhadrasana. So it gives in detail how to take the postures of these four asanas for healthy body and also healthy mind, and for self-realization, getting detached from the world. The detailed procedure and setting of these asanas is described in the text of this Upanishad. So, Yoga Tattva Upanishad asserts or tells us that by following yogic practices, one can know the ultimate truth. But at the same time, it emphasizes the importance of acquiring knowledge along with following yogic practices. So, Yoga Tattva Upanishad particularly is important for those who want to learn meditation process or meditation, who want to learn Hatha Yoga, and also who want to learn or choose the style of yoga that one wants to follow, Mantra Yoga, Laya Yoga, Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga, or combination of these. And so Yoga Tattva Upanishad gives us the detailed description of all these subjects. The second Upanishad, which we are going to have a look at, is Tejo Bindu Upanishad. It is the minor Upanishad, as I said earlier, and is attached to Yajurveda. It has 465 verses, a long Upanishad, a detailed Upanishad. This text is notable, particularly for its focus on meditation. Sorry, I will show you the slide also. It presents Vedanta from yoga perspective. The title means Radiant Power of Point. Tejo Bindu means the point representing the power of Brahma. The text opens asserting that dhyana, that is meditation, is difficult, but it is empowering and increasingly so as one proceeds from gross, then fine and then superfine states. When one starts meditating initially, many thoughts they come to the mind and one gets distracted. But as one proceeds in meditation process, as continues to do the process of meditation, then he goes to the fine and superfine states of meditation. Again, this Upanishad says that for success in meditation, what one should do? One should conquer anger, greed, lust, attachment, expectations and worries. So when we try to meditate, all our worries, all our anger, it comes into our mind and distracts us from meditation. So, in order to be successful in meditative process, it says that we have to conquer all these things. But it is the other way around also, in the sense that by following other yogic processes and by continuously for longer period following meditative process, one is able to conquer all these anger, greed, lust, worries, etc. Tejobindu Upanishad gives 15 limbs of yoga. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we have seen 8 limbs of yoga. But Tejobindu Upanishad gives 15 limbs of yoga. And they are, the first is Niyama, which means self-control. Second is Niyama, which means right observance. Third is Tyaga, which is renunciation. Fourth is Mauna, silence. But silence means inner quietness. Desha, which means right place. Kala, which means right time. Asana, which means right posture. Eighth is pranayama, breath equilibrium. Pratyahar, withdrawal of senses. Next is dharana, that is concentration. Next is atmajnana, atma knowledge, meditation on universal self. Next is desha samya, which is body equilibrium. Next is drishti, which is stable introspection. Next is mula bandha. This is yogic root lock technique. And the last is samadhi, which is the ultimate goal of any yogic practice, which means identification with individual self is dropped. So one is with the Brahma, ultimate reality, non-duality, Advaita. So the Tejobindu discusses all these limbs of yoga in detail. It also describes the concept of Brahma and Jivana Mukta, a Sanskrit word, which means one who has attained salvation. So, the Tejobindu Upanishad is meditating on the shining self, which is changeless and realized in the heart of Samadhi. So, this shining self can be realized only in the state of Samadhi. They only attain Samadhi who have mastered the senses and are free from anger, free from self-will and from likes and dislikes, without selfish bonds to people and things. So non-attachment. It says that they alone attain Samadhi who are prepared to face challenge after challenge in the 3 stages of meditation. It says that To be united with the Lord of love is to be freed from all conditioning. This is the state of self-realization, far beyond the reach of words and thought. It says, let us meditate on the shining self, the ultimate reality, who is realized by the sages in Samadhi. So, Tejo Bindu Upanishad aims to attain the state of Samadhi, where non-duality, Advaita, is attained. Self-realization is there. But for that, one has to accept the challenge of meditation. As we have seen earlier, because of anger, greed, worries, attachments, it is difficult to meditate. But it empowers one. And therefore, one has to rise above all this and meditate for long hours, for long period, to attain the stage of Samadhi, where one can become Jivana Mukta, that is, one who has attained salvation. The third Upanishad in this list is Dhyana Bindu Upanishad. This Upanishad is the most important among the Yoga Upanishads. It has 106 verses and is attached to Samveda. The text is composed in poetic style. As the name very much suggests, Dhyana, meditation. The main subject of this Upanishad is explaining the nature of Brahma and also discussion on Om. It includes 6-staged yoga. In Tejo Bindu Upanishad, we have seen 15 limbs of yoga. In Dhyana Bindu Upanishad, they gave us 6 stages or 6 limbs of yoga. They are asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan and samadhi. What all this means we have seen in the earlier text. This text also discusses 4 main asanas, postures: Siddhasan, Padmasan, Sinhasan and Bhadrasan. It also discusses Hansa Vidya, Hansa knowledge, to attain Brahma. More importantly, this Dhyana Bindu Upanishad explains 7 chakras present in the body and meditating on the same. So, Dhyana Bindu Upanishad has following main subjects. First, it explains the nature of Brahma. It discusses on Om meditation. It discusses in detail the 6 limbs of yoga. It gives 4 main asanas and the process of the same. It discusses Hansa Vidya, that is knowledge, Hansa knowledge. It states that there are 7 chakras in human body and meditating on these 7 chakras, how to do it and what is the significance of the same. It also discusses Kundalini Yoga. It has a detailed description of 3 bandha and mudras. In short, this Upanishad is a complete discussion on all the yogic processes. And therefore this Upanishad is considered to be the most important Upanishad in YogaPoint. And the fourth that we are going to discuss is Shandilya Upanishad. The name of the Upanishad is against the name of ancient sage known Shandilya, who has narrated the Brahma knowledge and which is also known as Shandilya Vidya, that is Shandilya knowledge, that is the knowledge given by Shandilya. This Upanishad describes Vidya, that is knowledge, which has been narrated by Shandilya. The main subject of this Upanishad is Brahma Vidya, that is Brahma knowledge. This Upanishad is in the form of question-answer between sage Shandilya and sage Atharva. The Upanishad is divided into 3 main chapters and 7 sections and 117 verses. The text primarily focuses on yoga techniques, and among most detailed Upanishad in yoga techniques, this Shandilya Upanishad gives more details about the yoga techniques. It describes 10 yamas, that is restraints, 10 niyamas, ethical to-do list, 8 types of asanas, that is postures, 3 types of pranayama, breath control, 5 types of pratyahar, withdrawal of senses, 5 types of dharanas, that is concentration, 2 types of dhyana, that is meditation, and 1 type of samadhi, that is dropping identification with self. So this Upanishad mainly is important because it gives us in detail the entire yogic process, and therefore Shandilya Upanishad is studied by most of the yoga students. So these are the 4 Upanishads. The first chapter of Shandilya Upanishad deals with Ashtanga Yoga. Here in this Upanishad, a detailed discussion on Ashtanga Yoga is given. The second compounds Brahma Vidya, which has been narrated by sage Shandilya, that is Brahma knowledge. The third talks about the nature and forms of Brahma. The Upanishad asserts that to be an accomplished yogi, one must possess self-restraint, belief in truth, and virtue towards self and towards others. A successful yogi is one who has conquered anger and is proficient in yoga theory and practice. This Upanishad also guides about how a yogi should set up and run his yoga center, which is called as matha. In Sanskrit it is called as mat or gurukul as we call it. So it guides those yogis also who want to set up their own yoga school which in Sanskrit is called as Matha, to pass on knowledge of yogic processes to the aspiring students, or in Sanskrit it is called as sadhak. So Shandilya Upanishad particularly is important because it covers a broad spectrum of yogic techniques. And in one Upanishad, you get not only Brahma Vidya, Brahma knowledge, but also a detailed knowledge about yogic techniques and also about guideline of how to run, how to start and how to run a yogic school to give or to impart knowledge to the aspiring students. So, all these four Upanishads, Yoga Tattva Upanishad, Tejo Bindu Upanishad, Shandilya Upanishad and Dhyana Bindu Upanishad. All these four Upanishads, why I have selected these four? The reason is that these four Upanishads, they explain in detail the entire science of yoga. They give us the Vedic philosophy from the yogic perspective. So these four Upanishads, they are a combination of two things. One is knowledge and another is yogic practices. And as it is said in this Yoga Upanishads, these two are complementary to each other. And therefore, unless one gains the knowledge, only yogic processes will not help. And only yogic processes without any knowledge of Brahma, Atma, Jivana Mukta, salvation, liberation, without knowledge of all this, only yogic processes will not help. And so knowledge plus yogic techniques or yogic processes, these four Upanishads, they combine all these two. And therefore, out of these 20, for this very short session, these four Upanishads were selected. Of course, as I said, the other 16 Upanishads, Yoga Upanishads, are also important. They also deal with different subjects. Of course, in yoga, but they deal with other subjects also. But these four Upanishads, I believe that they give us in brief how to gain knowledge also and how to practice yoga also, with the objective of attaining samadhi, where duality ends and where one becomes, or where the divine shines, the self shines. So this is all about Yoga Upanishads. Hari Om.